2 months into the war, Admiral Lisa Rodriguez had reorganized the entire human fleet into something that would have been unrecognizable to traditional military strategists. Instead of large battle groups with centralized command, she created dozens of small independent squadrons that operated without any coordination at all. Each squadron commander received the same basic orders: survive, adapt, and make the enemy pay for every victory. Beyond that, they were free to fight however they thought best. The result was chaos that even human high command could not predict or control. The Zephyrians found this absolutely maddening. Their fleet movements make no tactical sense, reported High Commander Vexthera's strategic advisor. Squadron A attacks our supply lines while Squadron B ignores identical targets and raids mining operations instead. Squadron C appears to be deliberately avoiding combat while Squadron D seeks it out at every opportunity. Vexthera studied the tactical displays showing human fleet positions and felt a growing headache. There must be some pattern we are missing. No military force operates in complete chaos. Perhaps that is exactly their strategy, his advisor suggested. If we cannot predict their movements, we cannot counter them effectively. Meanwhile, Captain Jake Morrison had become an expert at gathering intelligence while pretending to be a defeated prisoner. The Zephyrians had grown comfortable discussing strategy in his presence, believing that one human could do nothing with the information they revealed. Through his hidden transmitter, Jake relayed the aliens' next major offensive plan to Admiral Rodriguez. They're committing everything to a final push at Titan Station, he reported. Vexthera believes that breaking human resistance there will end the war. Admiral Rodriguez looked at the tactical situation around Saturn and began formulating what might be her most audacious plan yet. Titan Station was indeed critical to human operations in the outer system, but it was also the perfect place to turn the aliens' own tactics against them. Dr. Maya Patel had made another crucial breakthrough in understanding Zephyrian technology. Working around the clock in her laboratory aboard the research vessel Discovery, she had finally cracked their communication encryption. We can not only read their messages, she explained to Admiral Rodriguez during an encrypted conference call, we can send false messages that appear to come from their own command structure. Show me what you have in mind, the Admiral replied. Maya activated a holographic display, showing the Zephyrian fleet structure. Their entire military operates on rigid hierarchy and unquestioning obedience to orders. If we can insert false commands into their communication network, we can make them defeat themselves. The plan that emerged from Maya's discovery was both brilliant and completely insane. Instead of trying to defeat the Zephyrian fleet in direct combat, the humans would trick them into fighting each other. Commander Rick Martinez commanded the defense of Titan Station when the alien offensive began. His orders from Admiral Rodriguez were simple: make it look like humans were fighting desperately to hold their position while actually preparing to abandon it completely. Rick had only 50 ships to defend against over 800 Zephyrian vessels, but appearances could be deceiving. Hidden throughout Saturn's rings were Captain Susan Walsh's mining ship squadrons, now equipped with hybrid weapons that combined human engineering with captured alien technology. Enemy fleet approaching attack range, Rick's tactical officer reported. They're maintaining standard formation. Rick smiled grimly. Of course they are. They wouldn't know how to do anything else. The Battle of Titan Station began exactly as High Commander Vexthera expected. Human forces defended their positions with desperate courage, while his overwhelming numbers slowly pushed them back. Within 6 hours, it would all be over and human resistance would finally be broken. That was when Dr. Maya Patel's electronic warfare plan went into effect. False orders began appearing in the Zephyrian communication network. Fleet commanders received commands to change course and attack different targets. Supply ships were redirected to wrong locations. Individual captains got orders that contradicted their original mission. The rigid Zephyrian command structure, which had been their greatest strength for thousands of years, became their worst weakness. Officers followed orders without question even when those orders made no tactical sense. Admiral, we're receiving conflicting commands from fleet headquarters, reported a confused Zephyrian captain. Follow your original orders, his superior replied, but 3 minutes later, the same superior received a message that appeared to come from High Command, ordering him to implement the new directives immediately. Chaos spread through the alien fleet, as ships began moving in random directions, attacking targets that made no sense, and demanding clarification from commanders who were equally confused. High Commander Vexithara watched his perfectly organized offensive dissolve into complete disorder. "What is happening to my fleet?" he demanded. "Unknown, Commander," his communications officer replied. "We're receiving orders from multiple sources that claim to be fleet command. Some ships are responding to orders we never sent." That was when Captain Susan Walsh's hidden squadrons emerged from Saturn's rings like avenging spirits. The mining ships had been retrofitted with weapons that combined plasma-cutting technology with Zephyrian energy systems. When they opened fire, the results exceeded everyone's expectations. The Chaos torpedoes had been improved based on combat experience. Instead of simply overloading alien shields, they now carried specialized payloads designed to exploit specific weaknesses in Zephyrian technology. Some torpedoes released clouds of metallic particles that interfered with alien sensor systems. Others carried electromagnetic pulse generators that disabled ship electronics. The most devastating carried what Dr. Maya Patel called logic bombs, computer viruses specifically designed to attack Zephyrian artificial intelligence systems. The combined effect was devastating. Alien ships found themselves blind, helpless, and unable to coordinate with each other while human forces attacked from every direction at once. But the real turning point came when Admiral Rodriguez implemented the final phase of her plan. Instead of trying to destroy the entire Zephyrian fleet, she focused on capturing High Commander Vexithara himself. "All squadrons concentrate on the flagship," she ordered. "I want that ship intact and its commander alive." The attack on the Eternal Dominion was unlike anything seen in the war so far. Human ships attacked in waves, each one designed to disable rather than destroy. Mining lasers cut away weapon systems. Construction foam blocked engine exhausts. Electromagnetic pulses knocked out communications and navigation. Within 2 hours, the most powerful ship in the Zephyrian fleet was helpless and drifting. High Commander Vexithara found himself surrounded by human marines who had somehow boarded his vessel, despite its supposedly impregnable defenses. Captain Jake Morrison was finally free, but his real value had been as an intelligence source rather than a prisoner. During his months of captivity, he had learned more about Zephyrian culture and psychology than any previous human contact. "They're not as unified as they appear," Jake reported to Admiral Rodriguez after his rescue. "The Empire includes 12 different species, and several of them joined only because they were conquered. Some of them are starting to question whether the Zephyrians are really superior to humans." Dr. Linda Thompson, Earth's chief specialist in alien psychology, began interrogating Vexithara immediately after his capture. What she learned changed everything about how humans understood their enemies. The Zephyrian Empire is based entirely on the belief that technological advancement equals moral superiority, Linda explained to Admiral Rodriguez. They've convinced themselves and their subject species that they have the right to rule because they're more advanced. But humans have shattered that fundamental assumption. "How so?" the Admiral asked. "We've proven that superior technology means nothing without the creativity and determination to use it effectively," Linda replied. "More importantly, we've shown that beings with inferior technology can defeat supposedly superior ones through intelligence and adaptability." The implications were staggering. If humans could defeat the Zephyrians despite overwhelming technological disadvantage, what did that say about all the other species the Empire had conquered over the millennia? Admiral Rodriguez looked at the tactical displays showing the aftermath of the Battle of Titan Station. Human losses had been surprisingly light, while Zephyrian casualties were catastrophic. More importantly, the alien fleet was in complete disarray, with many ships simply fleeing rather than continuing to fight. "Signal all squadrons," she ordered. "Begin Operation Lighthouse." Operation Lighthouse was the final phase of Admiral Rodriguez's strategy. Instead of simply defeating the Zephyrian Empire, humanity would offer something the galaxy had never seen before: genuine partnership between species based on mutual respect rather than domination. The war was about to end, but not in the way anyone had expected. 3 weeks into the war, Captain Susan Walsh led her squadron of converted mining ships through the asteroid belt near Ceres Station. The Zephyrians had established a supply depot on the station, and their patrols followed the same predictable routes every day. Susan had been watching them for 4 days, waiting for the perfect opportunity. Contact bearing 27 Mark IV, her sensor operator reported. Single Zephyrian cruiser on standard patrol route. Susan studied the tactical display and smiled. The alien ship was exactly where she expected it to be at exactly the right time. Signal the fleet. Begin mining Operation 7 Alpha. To any observer, it would look like human ships were simply harvesting asteroids for raw materials. The mining ships spread out in a standard extraction pattern, while the cargo haulers positioned themselves to collect processed ore. The industrial ships began their normal operations of breaking down asteroid rock into usable components. The Zephyrian cruiser detected the human activity and moved to investigate. According to their intelligence, humans used crude mining techniques that posed no threat to advanced starships. The cruiser's captain decided to observe these primitive operations before destroying the mining fleet. That decision cost him his ship and his life. The plasma cutters that normally sliced through rock were designed to operate at extremely close range with incredible precision. When 6 mining ships suddenly changed course and targeted the cruiser simultaneously, their cutting beams focused on the exact same point on the alien hull. The Zephyrian shields deflected the first few seconds of the attack, but the mining equipment was designed for continuous operation. The plasma cutters ran at full power for several minutes, while the cargo haulers launched their loads of processed asteroid chunks at high velocity. Dr. Maya Patel had been right about the alien shield technology. The barriers that easily stopped energy weapons and military projectiles could not handle the sustained pressure of industrial equipment used as weapons. The cruiser's shields collapsed just as the cargo loads impacted its hull, but Susan's real surprise came from the industrial ships. Instead of waste disposal systems, they carried mining charges, controlled explosives used to break apart large asteroids. Hundreds of these charges, each one powerful enough to shatter solid rock, detonated against the unshielded alien hull. The Zephyrian cruiser simply ceased to exist. High Commander Vexithara reviewed the battle reports with growing confusion. His forces had superior technology, better training, and overwhelming numerical advantage. Yet human resistance was actually increasing instead of collapsing as expected. How many ships have we lost to these unconventional attacks? He asked his tactical advisor. 47 vessels destroyed, 93 damaged, came the reply. Human losses are estimated at 12 ships. Vexithara struggled to understand how this was possible. The humans used mining equipment, cargo ships, and industrial vessels as weapons. They attacked supply lines instead of military targets. They avoided direct confrontation while striking where least expected. These tactics violate every principle of civilized warfare, he declared. Yes, Commander. Should we file a formal protest with the Galactic Council? Vexithara stared at his advisor in disbelief. We are trying to exterminate their species, and you want to complain that they fight unfairly? Meanwhile, Dr. Maya Patel was making breakthrough discoveries almost daily. Each captured piece of alien technology revealed new vulnerabilities in Zephyrian systems. Working with Chief Engineer Bobby Chen aboard the UES Retribution, she had developed what they called chaos torpedoes. The alien computers process information in very organized patterns, Maya explained to Admiral Rodriguez during their weekly briefing. Their shields analyze incoming threats and respond according to pre-programmed parameters. But what happens if we give them too much conflicting information to process? Show me, the Admiral replied. Maya activated a holographic display showing the Chaos Torpedo design. Each warhead broadcasts thousands of false targeting signatures while carrying a completely unconventional payload. The alien shields try to analyze and counter every signal simultaneously. And when they can't handle the information overload, Admiral Rodriguez asked. The shields collapse completely, Bobby Chen answered. Then our real surprise goes to work. The Chaos torpedoes carried payloads that would have seemed absurd to any traditional military strategist. Industrial acid used for cleaning starship hulls, nano-disassemblers designed for recycling space debris, construction foam that hardened on contact with air, even simple high-explosive charges from mining operations. Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster led the first successful test of the new weapons. Her frigate UES Yellowstone approached a Zephyrian patrol vessel, while broadcasting false distress signals. The alien ship moved to capture rather than destroy the apparently helpless human vessel. Amy waited until the last possible moment, before launching 6 chaos torpedoes at point-blank range. The Zephyrian shields flickered wildly as they tried to process thousands of contradictory targeting solutions. When the barriers finally collapsed, the unconventional payloads went to work. The alien ship's hull began dissolving as industrial acid ate through the metal. Nano-disassemblers started breaking down essential systems at the molecular level. Construction foam expanded throughout the ship's interior, crushing delicate equipment and blocking critical pathways. The Zephyrian crew evacuated in escape pods while their ship literally fell apart around them. Back on Earth, General Patricia Davis was coordinating with human resistance cells on occupied colony worlds. The aliens might control orbital space around these planets, but the surface was proving to be a different matter entirely. Report from New Geneva, her communications officer announced. The Zephyrians have established a garrison of 5,000 troops in the capital city. What's the situation with our people? Patricia asked. 10,000 civilians remained on the surface when the planet fell. They've organized into small groups and are conducting harassment operations against alien forces. Patricia studied the tactical situation and felt a mixture of pride and concern. The colonists had no military training and limited weapons, but they were making life extremely difficult for the Zephyrian occupation force. The aliens expected conquered populations to submit peacefully or offer token resistance before accepting defeat. They were not prepared for humans who treated every occupied building as a potential fortress and every piece of civilian equipment as a possible weapon. Construction vehicles became improvised tanks. Agricultural chemicals became poison gas. Even children's toys were converted into surveillance devices and explosive booby traps. High Commander Vexithara received increasingly desperate reports from his ground commanders. The human civilians refuse to accept defeat, one reported. They attack our patrols, sabotage our equipment, and disappear before we can respond. When we search for them, we find only innocent families going about their daily lives. Then eliminate the families as well, Vexithara ordered. Commander, that would violate the Galactic Convention on Treatment of Conquered Populations. Vexithara felt something he had never experienced before. The understanding that his enemies were changing him into something he did not want to become. The humans fought with such determination that defeating them required abandoning the very principles that made the Zephyrian Empire believe itself superior. Captain Jake Morrison, still imprisoned aboard the alien flagship, had become an unwitting source of intelligence for his captors. The Zephyrians discussed their strategies openly in his presence, confident that one human prisoner could do nothing with the information. They were wrong about that too. During a prisoner exchange for captured Zephyrian crew members, human intelligence operatives managed to smuggle a microscopic transmitter to Jake. Hidden in what appeared to be a standard medical injection, the device allowed him to relay alien battle plans directly to Admiral Rodriguez. They're planning a major offensive against the Luna orbital platforms, Jake reported during his next coded transmission. Vexithara is committing his entire reserve fleet to break human resistance once and for all. Admiral Rodriguez smiled as she received the intelligence. Then we'll give him exactly what he wants. A decisive battle that ends this war one way or another. The 72 hours passed faster than anyone wanted. Admiral Lisa Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, watching her tactical display as red dots representing enemy ships appeared at the edge of human space. There were so many red dots that they looked like a spreading infection across the star map. First contact at New Geneva Colony, reported her communications officer. The Zephyrians are moving in standard attack formation. Admiral Rodriguez had hoped the aliens might be bluffing about their ultimatum. That hope died as she watched the first wave of plasma fire tear through the colony's defense platforms like they were made of paper. The human weapons barely scratched the alien shields while their return fire punched through human defenses with terrifying ease. Commander Alex Stone was on the surface of New Geneva when the attack began. He had volunteered to coordinate the final evacuation, while most of the fleet pulled back to more defensible positions. The colony housed 90,000 people, and getting them all off the planet safely was going to be nearly impossible, with alien ships controlling the space around them. Transport 7 is loaded and ready for launch, his aide reported over the sound of distant explosions. The Zephyrians were bombarding military targets from orbit but so far had avoided hitting civilian areas. Tell them to wait, Alex ordered. If they launch now, those alien ships will destroy them before they clear atmosphere. Alex had been studying the alien attack patterns for the past hour and noticed something interesting. The Zephyrians attacked in precise formations with perfectly timed movements. Their tactics were flawless by any military standard, But they were also completely predictable. Every 15 minutes they repositioned their ships in exactly the same way. All transports launch in 8 minutes, Alex announced. That will put you right in the middle of their repositioning cycle when their attention is focused inward. The plan worked better than anyone expected. 80,000 civilians escaped while the alien fleet was distracted by their own tactical maneuvers. But 10,000 people remained trapped on the surface when the Zephyrians realized what was happening and moved to block further evacuations. High Commander Vexathara watched the evacuation from his flagship and felt something he had never experienced before during a military campaign. Surprise. The human tactics made no sense according to established galactic warfare doctrine. Instead of fighting to defend their positions, they had simply abandoned them while saving as many people as possible. Should we pursue the evacuation ships? His tactical officer asked. No, Vexathara replied after a moment. They are fleeing in disorder. This proves their weakness. Continue with the planned bombardment of military targets. What Vexathara did not realize was that the evacuation ships carried more than refugees. Hidden among the civilian transports were intelligence officers who had spent the entire battle recording everything about Zephyrian tactics, weapons, and ship movements. The humans were not fleeing in disorder. They were gathering data. Dr. Maya Patel was aboard the research vessel Discovery when the first battle reports arrived. As Earth's leading expert on alien technology, she had been hoping for exactly this kind of information. The Zephyrians had revealed far more about their capabilities than they probably intended. Their plasma weapons are incredibly powerful, but they fire in very predictable patterns, she told Admiral Rodriguez during an emergency conference call. More importantly, their shields seem to be designed specifically to counter energy weapons and high-velocity projectiles. What does that mean for us? The Admiral asked. It means their shields are probably useless against anything that doesn't fit their expectations, Maya replied. They've spent thousands of years fighting other advanced civilizations that use similar technology. They may not know how to defend against more primitive weapons used in unconventional ways. Meanwhile, Captain Jake Morrison was no longer free to contribute to the war effort. His ship had been captured during the second day of fighting when he attempted to rescue survivors from an attacked colony. Now he found himself in a detention cell aboard the Zephyrian flagship Eternal Dominion. The cell was surprisingly comfortable by human standards, but clearly designed for beings much larger than humans. Jake could stand up easily even though the ceiling was nearly 12 feet high. The door was made of some kind of energy field that prevented him from leaving, but allowed guards to pass through when they brought food. High Commander Vexathara visited Jake on the third day of his captivity. The alien commander had to duck slightly to fit through the doorway, and his forearms moved in complex gestures as he spoke. I have studied your species' military history, Vexathara said through his translation device. You fight with crude kinetic weapons, primitive explosives, and uncoordinated tactics. Your largest wars involved only millions of combatants using weapons that could barely reach beyond your own atmosphere. How do you expect to resist an empire that spans 1,000 star systems? Jake looked up at the towering alien and smiled despite their situation. You know what your biggest problem is? You think this is going to be a fair fight? Explain your meaning. You've studied our history, but you don't understand it, Jake said. Every time humans faced superior technology or numbers, we found ways to win anyway. We adapt, we improvise, we use whatever works. You expect us to line up our ships and trade shots like gentlemen. That's not how humans fight when our survival is at stake. Vexathara made that sound like breaking glass again. Your bravado is admirable but meaningless. My ships are already advancing toward your inner colonies. Your Earth defense fleet cannot stop us using conventional tactics, and they lack the imagination to use unconventional ones. Jake's smile grew wider. That's your second mistake. While they talked, Admiral Rodriguez was implementing plans that would have horrified any conventional military strategist. Protocol Scorpion was not a standard battle plan. It was a complete rejection of traditional warfare. Instead of trying to match alien technology, humans would use everything available to fight as dirty as necessary. Captain Susan Walsh received her new orders while commanding a small frigate near the Mars orbital shipyards. Instead of preparing for fleet action, she was ordered to take command of a squadron of mining ships, cargo haulers, and industrial vessels. Ma'am, these aren't warships, her tactical officer pointed out. No, they're not, Susan agreed. But the aliens don't know that. And sometimes the best weapon is one your enemy doesn't see coming. The mining ships carried plasma cutters designed to slice through asteroid rock. The cargo haulers had massive engines capable of moving enormous loads. The industrial vessels carried everything from construction equipment to waste disposal systems. Susan looked at her strange new fleet and began to understand what Admiral Rodriguez had in mind. The Zephyrians expected to fight warships with warships. They were about to discover that humans considered everything a potential weapon when pushed hard enough. "Signal the fleet," Susan ordered. "We're going hunting." Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the colony ship New Horizons and watched the stars through the main window. They had been traveling for 6 months toward the Kepler 442 system, where humans planned to build their newest home. The ship carried 50,000 people who wanted to start fresh on a new world. Jake had made this trip twice before and each time felt the same excitement when they got close to their destination. The ship's communications officer turned around in her chair and looked worried. "Captain, we're getting some strange signals from unknown ships approaching fast." Jake walked over to look at the scanner display. 3 large ships were moving toward them at incredible speed. The ships were bigger than anything humans had ever built, and their design looked completely alien. "Try to contact them," Jake ordered. Before the communications officer could respond, the main screen flickered and showed the face of something that was definitely not human. The creature had 4 arms, skin that looked like purple crystal, and eyes that glowed with blue light. When it spoke, the words came through a translation device. "I am High Commander Vexithara of the Zephyrian Empire. You will listen carefully to what I say because your species' survival depends on it." Jake stepped forward and tried to keep his voice calm. "This is Captain Morrison of the human vessel New Horizons. We're on a peaceful mission to establish a colony." The alien commander made a sound that might have been laughter but sounded more like breaking glass. "Peaceful mission. That is what all primitive species say when they spread like infection across the galaxy. The Zephyrian Empire has watched your kind expand beyond your home system. This expansion ends now. We have every right to explore and settle new worlds," Jake replied. "These systems don't belong to anyone." "Wrong," Vexithara said, and the blue glow in his eyes grew brighter. "The galaxy belongs to civilized species who understand order and respect the authority of those who came before. Humans are neither civilized nor worthy of respect. You are animals with crude technology and violent tendencies." Jake felt anger rising in his chest but forced himself to stay calm. "What exactly are you demanding?" "The Zephyrian Empire hereby declares that humanity has 72 standard hours to withdraw all presence from every star system beyond your original home. Every human ship, station, and colony outside the Sol system must be abandoned. Any human presence remaining after this deadline will be destroyed completely." The transmission ended and the alien ships disappeared as quickly as they had arrived. Jake stared at the empty space where they had been and tried to process what had just happened. The communications officer was already sending emergency messages back to Earth. On Earth, Admiral Lisa Rodriguez received the message while standing in the command center of Sentinel-1, the massive space station that served as headquarters for the Earth Defense Fleet. She read the alien ultimatum 3 times before calling an emergency meeting with her senior staff. "How many ships do we have?" she asked her operations chief. 847 combat vessels of various sizes," came the reply. "Intelligence estimates the Zephyrians have over 3,000 ships based on long-range observations." Admiral Rodriguez nodded grimly. The numbers were not good, but humans had faced worse odds before. "What do we know about their technology?" Lieutenant Colonel Ryan Parker, head of military intelligence, pulled up holographic displays showing the alien ships. "Their weapons appear to be plasma-based energy systems. Their shields are more advanced than ours. Their ships are faster and more maneuverable. In a direct fight using conventional tactics, we would lose badly." "Then we don't fight conventionally," Admiral Rodriguez said. "Start implementing Protocol Scorpion immediately. Contact all colony worlds and outer stations. Begin evacuation procedures, but make sure our people take everything useful with them when they leave." President Helen Carter arrived at the command center 2 hours later. She looked tired but determined as she reviewed the situation reports. "What are our options, Admiral?" "We can surrender and abandon everything we've built in the last 50 years, Admiral Rodriguez replied. "Or we can fight a war we're almost certain to lose using normal methods." "Those don't sound like very good options." "They're not. But there might be a third option. These aliens think they know how humans fight because they've studied our military history. They see our past wars and think they understand our capabilities. They're about to learn that human history doesn't tell the whole story. President Carter looked at the tactical displays showing alien ship movements. You think we can win? I think we can survive. And sometimes surviving is the same thing as winning. Admiral Rodriguez turned to address the entire command center. The Zephyrians made their first mistake when they gave us 72 hours to prepare. They made their second mistake when they assumed we would fight fair. Lieutenant Colonel Parker was already working with his intelligence team to analyze every piece of data they had about the aliens. Their tactics appear very rigid and formal, he reported. They follow established patterns that have worked against other species for thousands of years. But those other species probably fought according to galactic warfare conventions. And humans don't follow anyone else's conventions, Admiral Rodriguez said with a slight smile. Contact our research divisions. I want every crazy idea, every unconventional weapon, every dirty trick our people can think of. If these aliens want a war, they'll get one, but it won't be the kind of war they're expecting. As the 72-hour deadline approached, human colonies across 3 star systems began evacuating. But the evacuation ships carried more than just people and supplies. They carried plans, blueprints, and equipment that would soon turn the tide of an interstellar war. President Carter's final message to the Zephyrian Empire was broadcast on all frequencies. You have declared war on humanity, expecting us to surrender because you have superior numbers and technology. You believe this makes you better than us. You are about to discover why that assumption will be your greatest mistake. Humans don't just fight wars. We evolve through them. The countdown to war had begun, and neither side would emerge unchanged from what was coming. 6 months after declaring war on humanity, the Zephyrian Empire faced something that had never happened in their 1,000-year history: complete military collapse against a supposedly primitive enemy. Admiral Lisa Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the UES Vengeance, a hybrid warship built with human engineering and captured alien technology, watching her fleet push deep into Zephyrian space. The ship itself was a symbol of how much the war had changed both sides. Human creativity combined with alien technology had produced vessels that surpassed anything either species had built alone. More importantly, the crews included both humans and aliens working together toward a common goal. Report from the Advanced Scouts, her communications officer announced. 3 more Zephyrian member species have declared independence from the Empire. The Kalari Republic, the Thessian Confederacy, and the Mindros Collective are all requesting alliance with the human coalition. Admiral Rodriguez smiled as she reviewed the diplomatic reports. Operation Lighthouse had succeeded beyond anyone's wildest expectations. Instead of simply defeating their enemies, humans had offered them something the galaxy had never seen: genuine partnership between different species. Captain Jake Morrison, now serving as liaison to the growing resistance movement within the Empire, coordinated with alien leaders who had decided their loyalty belonged with humanity, rather than the Zephyrians. His months as a prisoner had given him unique insights into alien psychology and culture that proved invaluable in building these new alliances. The Verdani want to know if humans will help them establish their own independent government, Jake reported during the daily briefing. They've been under Zephyrian control for over 300 years and have no experience with self-rule. Tell them we'll provide advisors and technical assistance, but the government has to be their own creation, Admiral Rodriguez replied. We're not here to replace one empire with another. Dr. Maya Patel had become the most important person in the fleet, despite never firing a weapon in anger. Her breakthroughs in alien technology had made human victory possible, but more importantly, they had created the foundation for genuine cooperation between species. The hybrid shield systems are working perfectly, she reported from her laboratory aboard the Discovery. Human adaptive algorithms combined with Zephyrian energy matrix technology produces defensive capabilities that neither species could achieve alone. The same principle applied to weapons, engines, computers, and even basic life support systems. Humanity's greatest innovation was not any single technology, but the idea that different species could work together to create something better than either could manage separately. The final battle of the war took place in the Nexus Prime system, around the Zephyrian capital world. High Commander Vexithara had been released as part of a prisoner exchange, but he returned to find an empire in chaos with half his former allies now fighting against him. The battle itself was almost anticlimactic. The Zephyrian fleet that had once numbered over 3,000 ships had been reduced to fewer than 400. Many of those were crewed by reluctant conscripts from species that no longer believed in the Empire's cause. When Admiral Rodriguez's coalition fleet arrived in the system, they found the Zephyrians defending their homeworld with the desperation of beings who knew their entire way of life was ending. All ships. This is Admiral Rodriguez, she broadcast on all frequencies. We are not here to destroy the Zephyrian people or their civilization. We are here to end an empire built on domination and replace it with something better. The fighting was brutal but brief. Human tactics had evolved far beyond the crude mining ship attacks of the early war. Now they used coordinated strikes by mixed-species crews using hybrid technology that combined the best innovations from multiple civilizations. But the real end of the war came not from military victory but from something much more powerful. The complete collapse of Zephyrian ideology. Ambassador Carl Johnson had arrived in the Nexus system aboard a diplomatic vessel rather than a warship. His mission was not to accept surrender, but to offer partnership to any Zephyrian who wanted to join the new galactic order. Your empire claimed the right to rule because you were technologically superior, Carl said during his broadcast to the Zephyrian people. But technology means nothing without wisdom to use it properly. Humans have shown that creativity, determination, and cooperation are more valuable than any advanced weapon. The response surprised everyone, including the humans. Millions of Zephyrians, especially younger ones who had grown up believing their species was naturally superior to all others, began questioning everything they had been taught. High Commander Vexathera made his final stand not in space but in the Great Council chamber of Nexus Prime. Surrounded by the remaining loyal leaders of his crumbling empire, he refused to accept that beings he considered primitive animals had destroyed everything he believed in. We are the Zephyrian Empire, he declared to the assembled council. We have ruled this galaxy for 1,000 years. We will not bow to creatures who were barely capable of spaceflight when our civilization was already ancient. Your civilization is ancient, agreed Admiral Rodriguez, who had been invited to address the council. But age does not equal wisdom. You spent 1,000 years conquering other species and convincing yourselves that might makes right. Humans spent far less time learning that cooperation is stronger than domination. The debate that followed would be studied by historians for centuries. Vexathera argued that the Zephyrian way had brought order and stability to the galaxy. Admiral Rodriguez countered that it had brought stagnation and oppression disguised as peace. Look at what we accomplished together in just 6 months of war, she said, gesturing toward the mixed human and alien crew members present in the chamber. Your own people are working alongside humans to create technology that surpasses anything either of our species achieved alone. That is what cooperation can accomplish. The final vote was closer than anyone expected. The Zephyrian Council voted to dissolve the Empire by a margin of only 3 votes. High Commander Vexathera accepted defeat with the dignity of a warrior who had fought honorably for a cause he believed in, even if that cause was ultimately wrong. President Helen Carter's address to the newly formed Galactic Cooperation Council was broadcast to every inhabited world in known space. You declared war on humans expecting a quick victory over a primitive species, she said. Instead, you discovered that humans don't just fight wars, we evolve through them. We adapt, we learn, we overcome, and most importantly, we remember that our greatest strength comes not from our weapons but from our willingness to work together. The post-war galaxy was transformed in ways no one had anticipated. The rigid hierarchies and technological stagnation of the old empire gave way to an explosion of innovation and cultural exchange. Human adaptability combined with alien knowledge produced advances that benefited everyone. Dr. Maya Patel established the Interspecies Technology Institute, where beings from dozens of different worlds worked together on projects that would have been impossible for any single species. Chief Engineer Bobby Chen led teams that included humans, former Zephyrians, and members of species that had been conquered so long ago. Their names had been forgotten. Captain Susan Walsh commanded the first joint exploration mission to regions of space that had been forbidden under the old empire. Her crew included volunteers from 7 different species, all eager to discover what lay beyond the boundaries of their former prison. But perhaps the most important change was philosophical rather than technological. The galaxy learned that advancement meant more than just building better weapons or faster ships. True progress came from learning to work together despite differences in biology, culture, and technology. 10 years after the war ended, Captain Jake Morrison commanded the UES Unity, the first starship designed entirely through interspecies cooperation. His crew included former enemies who had become trusted friends and colleagues. When young cadets from dozens of different worlds asked him about the war, Jake always gave the same answer. The Zephyrians made one crucial mistake. They thought superior technology made them superior beings. Humans prove that creativity, determination, and the willingness to fight dirty when necessary are worth more than all the advanced weapons in the galaxy. But we didn't win because we were stronger, he would continue. We won because we refused to quit. And more importantly, we won because we offered our enemies something better than victory or defeat. We offered them partnership. The war that began with an ultimatum for human surrender ended with the creation of a galactic civilization based on cooperation rather than conquest. High Commander Vexthara, now serving as an advisor to the Cooperation Council, often reflected on how completely wrong his initial assessment had been. I thought humans were primitive because they fought with crude weapons and chaotic tactics, he admitted during one council session. I failed to understand that adaptability and creativity are more advanced than any technology. The humans did not defeat us with superior weapons. They defeated us with superior ideas. Admiral Rodriguez, now serving as the first director of interspecies defense, kept a simple reminder on her desk.